All people want purpose and meaning in their lives. The Bible answers that. The Bible shows you very clearly what your purpose and meaning is. Why did God make you and what is He doing with you? The problem comes with the way we approach the Bible. We moderns tend to dissect it, to chop it up, to treat it like an encyclopedia of independent articles about truth. And I want to show you how the first church read the scriptures, the ancient way that they approached God's revelation. I want to show you that it's a single story. So I'm going to show you something in this lesson. It's a brief lesson, but we're going to keep building on that with each subsequent lesson in this foundation series. What I want to do is start with the first book of the Bible, Genesis, in what we call the Old Testament. And I want to show you the correlations, the parallels in the book of Revelation, the last book of the Bible. And I'm doing that to show you that what happens in the first book of the Bible at the very beginning is resolved, it's consummated, it comes to its climax at the very end of the Bible, and it's screaming to you, read this as one story. Now, as I said, I will build off this in subsequent lessons, but let me just give you an overview here. In Genesis, we find out that the earth is created. In Revelation, we have the earth recreated. In Genesis, you have the sun, the moon, and the stars given roles. They have functions. In Revelation, you see them fulfilling those roles. In Genesis, the sun is told to, quote, govern or rule the day. And in Revelation, you don't have any need for the sun to do that. Now, I'm not going to get into why. That's a whole interpretive thing with the book of Revelation. I have another series on the book of Revelation on rootsforfruit.net, rootsforfruit.org, and you can go there and see that, but I don't want to get bogged down in the details here. I just want to show you that it's a single story for right now. In Genesis, we have darkness being allowed. In Revelation, darkness is no longer allowed. In Genesis, the seas are held back. In Revelation, there are no more seas. In Revelation, the rivers give life, and in Genesis, there are 4 rivers that give life. In Revelation, there's only one single river of life. Back in Genesis, there is a new man created in God's image. In Revelation, we find an old man is created in Satan's image. In Revelation, there's the entrance of sin. In Revelation, there's the exit of sin. In Revelation, a curse is pronounced. In Genesis, the curse is pronounced. In Revelation, the curse ends. In Genesis, death enters. In Revelation, death is ended. In Genesis, man is barred from the garden of life. In Revelation, man is restored to the garden of life. In Genesis, man is barred from the tree of life in that garden, and in Revelation, man is given access to that tree. In Genesis, sorrow and suffering begin, but they end in Revelation. In Genesis, a city called Babylon, very symbolic, is founded, but Babylon falls in chapters 17 and 18 of Revelation. In Genesis, God's flood to destroy spiritually mixed people is sent. In Revelation, Satan sends a flood to destroy spiritually separated people, people dedicated to God. In Genesis, there's a rainbow, and it signifies the end of judgment by water. In Revelation, there's another rainbow, but it's a sign of the beginning of judgment by fire, final judgment. In Genesis, there's the destruction of Sodom, and in Revelation, there is the destruction, finally, of Sodom. In Genesis, there is a bride for Abraham's son, and in Revelation, we find a bride for Abraham's seed. That is Christ, as Paul says to the Galatians. In Genesis, there's the marriage of the very first Adam. He gets Eve. In Revelation, we have a marriage of the last Adam, which is how Paul refers to Jesus. In Romans chapter 5, he refers to Jesus as the second Adam, and we see the marriage supper of him, the marriage supper of the Lamb. In Genesis, we see a seed promised, that person who is going to possess the gates of the enemy. And in Revelation, we see that actually happening in chapter 19. In Genesis, God's kingdom through man's dominion is through sin handed over to Satan in chapter 3, verse 24. God tells Adam means human, so Adam is representing humanity. He says, you have to subdue and take dominion after you learn how to be fruitful and to multiply that fruit. And you see that all transpiring in Revelation. God's kingdom through man's dominion, is taken back from Satan in chapters 20 and 22. So that's just a quick overview. There's actually quite a bit more there between Genesis and Revelation, but I just wanted to give you a brief overview. So if I asked you right now, if the Bible is a single story, and it is, what is it about? How would you answer that? Well, let's look at Genesis 1 in a little bit more detail. What happens is God creates these things. He creates light and land and grass, herbs, fruit and trees, seed for more fruit, sun, moon, stars, fish, birds, land animals. He does things in a very specific order. And after he creates these things, he says it is good. He creates man. And in chapter 2, you have a kind of a zooming in on creation that is focusing in on humanity. And something very interesting happens when God creates man. He says it is not good. Why? Why does God look at man? If you remember from Genesis chapter 3, why does he say specifically that it is not good? Well, man was alone, wasn't he? He said it is not good that man is alone. And so he wants to create a woman. He creates Eve for Adam. He creates her of Adam, and yet she is separate from him. She has his nature, his core nature. She is a Homo sapiens, a human, and yet she's very, very different. He is male, she is female. But there's something incomplete with the male, with the bridegroom, the first Adam, until he has his bride. Well, Andrew of Caesarea was an ancient pastor who lived at the end of the 6th century and the beginning of the 7th century. And he wrote one of the earliest commentaries in the book of Revelation that we know of, if not the earliest. He summarized the Bible like this. He said, the Bible is the story of how God prepares a bride suitable for his son, the bridegroom. In the Great Commission of Matthew 28, Jesus said, we are to make disciples wherever we are and wherever we go. What we call discipleship is nothing more than learning how to abide in Christ, to take on his character as a natural outflow of our souls, so that his power and his authority is being used to destroy sin and evil in the world through you, the bride to Jesus Christ, the bridegroom. So why did Jesus come? Let me back up a little bit here. Well, 1 Timothy 1:15 says he came to save sinners. But does he save people for a purpose, for a mission, or does he save people just to get them out of hell? And if you read 1 John 3:8, you find something else. You find that the bride is to be a suitable helper to the bridegroom. That's what he called Eve to Adam. And we find that we as the bride to Christ our bridegroom, the way we're prepared for the marriage supper of the Lamb at the end of the story, the way we become a suitable bride for the bridegroom, is that we take on his mission. The bridegroom, Jesus Christ, has a great mission. He saves sinners to destroy the works of the devil, according to 1 John 3:8. You have a great co-mission. The mission for your life is a submission to the mission of Jesus. You must submit your life to to Jesus Christ in order to be fulfilled as a human being, in order to find true joy, true freedom, true meaning and purpose. Your Great Commission is to do the same as the bridegroom, to be his helpmate, as Eve was the helpmate for Adam. So for next week, the next lesson, I want to show you something about the Bible that I doubt you've ever seen before, and I hope it will completely change how you read it, the Old and the New Testaments and the Gospels, and it will help you understand what God is doing in your life to prepare you for that great day when you meet him.